You stand at a quiet crossroads as dawn softens the edges of the world. A narrow road of familiar faith stretches back toward hymns and simple trust. Another, sunlit and unfamiliar, leads toward abundance. The air smells of coffee and paper bills, of old promises and the soft linen of a Sunday shirt folded on a chair. Inside you is a longing so honest it hurts, not greed, but a deep hunger to live fully, to provide, to steward well. And beneath that hunger, a small, persistent whisper has been showing up like morning light through the curtains, a voice that sounds like prayer and like possibility at once. Fear not, it says, not as a slogan but as a presence. I will provide. Use what I give to bless. The words arrive quietly when you wash the dishes, when you scroll through month-end numbers, when you fold the laundry and glance at a child's sleeping face. Sometimes the whisper feels like courage, sometimes it trembles, carrying your own doubts back to you. Will wealth pull me away from what I believe? Will abundance rewrite the story of who I am? Will generosity be replaced by appetite? You walk through the house of your life, touching objects that tell the story, a worn Bible on the shelf, a notepad with hopeful budgets, a photograph of people you promised to help. There is tension in the room. Your faith has always been a sanctuary, money has always felt like an intruder. Yet the whisper keeps returning, patient as a steady drumbeat, provision for purpose, stewardship over ownership, giving as proof of trust. A memory surfaces, a late-night conversation with a friend who said, almost shyly, "What if prosperity is part of your calling?" You laugh at the thought and then feel your throat tighten. This is the crossroads, not only the choice of a road, but the shaping of a heart. You are both afraid and magnetized. You hold the whisper like a fragile seed, wondering if it will grow into a tree that shades others or if it will dry up in the heat of your fears. If this quiet tug at your soul resonates, give it a like, it tells us you're not alone. Subscribe and ring the bell to continue. Next, we'll walk deeper into the struggle, temptations, old stories about money, and the gentle counsel that can turn fear into faithful action. The days that follow feel like a slow unspooling of an old film, frames of temptation, memories, and a persistent inner counsel. You find yourself in the kitchen at dawn, coffee cooling beside a stack of bills, and an old voice from childhood slips in, "Money corrupts. The wealthy forget God." Another memory surfaces, family stories of loss, the shame of scarcity, each one tightening your chest like a hand around a rope. Outside, an advertisement flashes a smiling life, bigger house, perfect vacations, the easy comfort that seems to promise relief from all the ache. Your stomach clenches. Part of you wants to run toward that light. Part of you fears you will be left behind, an exchange of soul for ease. Then a different voice, softer and firmer than any fear, begins to speak in quiet moments, the whisper you first felt at the crossroads. Not all wealth steals, it says, but all wealth must be stewarded. The words arrive like a friend leaning over your shoulder at a ledger, pointing not to ownership but to responsibility. In the glow of your lamp you imagine money as a tool in calloused hands, able to build, to shelter, to heal. The counsel continues, generosity is not a performance, it is the proof of trust. Stewardship, not hoarding, honors what has been given. Prosperity, when aligned with purpose, magnifies service rather than consuming it. You test these messages. You set a simple boundary, one evening a week free from worry about spending, a small accountability with a trusted friend who keeps your motives honest. You begin to reframe old stories, turning "I can't afford that" into "Is this purchase serving my purpose?" You feel resistance, pride whispering that you could prove yourself by accumulating, fear insisting you must save every cent against imagined catastrophe. Each temptation is real and tactile, the impulse to buy status, the sly comfort in treating spending like anesthesia. Each wise message is equally tangible, give a little and watch fear loosen, plan a budget and feel agency return. You do not resolve everything in one sitting. There are nights of shame and mornings of clarity, of bargaining and of small, brave generosity when you choose to bless someone else and sense your heart expand. These practices, boundaries, accountability, purpose-driven budgeting, begin to stitch a different narrative into your bones. The whisper becomes less vague, offering specific counsel, steward, give, serve. As you stand in this quieter struggle, the path forward is not yet fully clear, but a choice waits, one that asks you to align prosperity with calling. If this quiet invitation resonates, like this message and subscribe, ring the bell so we can walk the next step together as you prepare to decide what integration truly looks like. You wake before dawn, the house still soft with sleep, and sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone lukewarm while the spreadsheet on your laptop blinks like a puzzle you can't stop trying to solve. Numbers stare back, old stories whisper, money is scarce, money corrupts, wealth belongs to other people. Your chest tightens. A memory surfaces, a father's warning about pride, a sermon about the dangers of riches. You almost close the screen and return to safety. Then a quieter voice, steadier than your fear, presses in. Stewardship, not ownership, it says, like a hand on your shoulder. It doesn't thunder, it instructs. Let what you have serve what you love. You argue. What if abundance softens you? What if giving opens holes you can't plug? The voice answers with a question, what do you want it to build? A child's laugh, a community clinic, a place where purpose and provision intersect. You imagine a life where money is a tool, a bridge to the things your heart believes matter. The image doesn't steal your faith, it enlarges it. Later, the temptation arrives in a glossy ad promising instant status. You feel the surge, an old itch to prove worth through things. The counselor's voice returns, offering practices like keys, set clear boundaries for spending, name your values before the purchase, invite an accountability partner to ask the hard questions. Practical, mundane, human, automate savings, set giving targets, review them with a friend who keeps you honest. Each habit feels oddly sacred, a ritual that realigns desire with destiny. Generosity is presented not as sacrifice but as evidence. Give to prove you trust, the voice suggests, not to win applause. You practice by writing a small check to a cause that scares and excites you. The immediate fear softens, something opens inside like a door pushed by light. You begin to see prosperity as capacity, to bless, to steward, to serve, rather than a prize to hoard. You walk through doubt and temptation, guided by counsel that is both divine and practical. The path is not a clean line, it is a series of choices, each humble and intentional. If this truth lands with you, if this willingness to reframe money as mission matters, like this moment to hold the courage, and subscribe with the bell so you won't miss the next step. Soon, you will be asked to choose, will prosperity become a rival, or a companion to your faith? The morning light slips through the blinds and paints thin lines across the kitchen table where you sit with a mug gone cold. Papers are scattered, bills, a business plan scribbled late at night, a brochure for a seminar promising overnight success. Your chest tightens in the space between desire and doubt. You imagine a life of provision, a home where doors open instead of close, the relief of lending a hand without counting coins. And immediately, an old voice rises inside, the one that learned scarcity as safety. Wealth will change you, people will expect more, you'll abandon what matters. Then, like a breeze that knows the language of the heart, a different message arrives, quiet, certain. Prosperity is not a prize to hoard, it says, it is a capacity to serve. You almost laugh at how practical that sounds. The whisper unfolds into counsel, steward what you receive, don't worship it, measure success by generosity, not by the size of the account. You see images, neighbors helped, an after-school program funded, freedom to say yes to what honors your calling. The idea that money can be a tool, a means to bless, softens the hard edges of fear. Temptation still sits at the table like an old friend. Quick schemes glare from the paper, voices promising shortcuts. An inner confrontation begins. What if I fail? You ask the silent room. The reply is not a sentence but a strategy, boundaries around spending, accountability with someone you trust, a rhythm of giving that keeps the heart tethered. It sounds almost boring, monthly reviews, clear purposes for each dollar, but in those small disciplines you sense safety, a way to hold prosperity without letting it hold you. A scene plays out, you meet a mentor in a sunlit cafe, his hands worn from honest work. Do not buy approval with money, he says, buy faithfulness. His words land like seeds. You imagine planting them in daily habits, budgets that honor values, generosity that is planned not impulsive, counsel that asks the hard questions. Fear hasn't vanished. It has been translated into a plan. The whisper continues, wealth practiced with purpose expands your capacity to bless. If this resonates, give this message a compassionate like, subscribe and tap the bell so these steady truths can find you again. Ahead, a decision presses. Will you let stewardship shape your path or allow fear to decide for you? You stand in the small kitchen at dawn, light folding across the counter where a stack of bills waits like a quiet accusation. Outside, the city breathes, traffic beginning, a neighbor's radio muffled, while inside your thoughts argue. An old voice, the one that taught you to fear abundance, murmurs that wealth will pull you away from everything you believe. Then, softer than that fear, a whisper from God returns, not a rebuke but a counsel, steward what I give. Let generosity be the measure of your heart. A text pings, an opportunity that promises fast cash if you bend a rule. Your throat tightens. You imagine the look on your child's face, the relief on your partner's features, the freedom to give more, but also the gradual slipping of the values you hold dear. You remember a conversation with Mara, your mentor, in the back pew of a church last month. She leaned forward, hands clasped, and said, "Money tests what you truly worship. It can be a tool or a master. Choose the tool." You pace, and in your mind the scene becomes cinematic, rows of open doors labeled with old fears, pride, greed, approval. Another door bears a simple sign, stewardship. You place your hand on that door and feel the warmth of practical choices, a budget that honors both necessity and overflow, a weekly check-in with an accountability friend, a clear boundary with clients about ethics. You rehearse a sentence aloud, simple and steady, I steward this, it serves others. The whisper grows into counsel about generosity as proof of faith, small, disciplined acts that translate belief into practice. You picture delivering a donation, watching someone else's face light, feeling a courage that doesn't erase fear but repositions it. Doubts keep pulling at your sleeve, but you notice a new muscle forming, the ability to say no without shame, to plan without anxiety, to ask for counsel before you leap. You finish with a quiet promise to yourself, not perfection, but a pathway. A tiny vow to give first, to set limits, to create accountability. If this moment resonates, like this message, let its truth echo in your own life, and subscribe with the bell to walk the rest of the way together. Ahead, a harder choice awaits. Will you step through stewardship into flourishing, or retreat to the old stories? You sit at the kitchen table as dusk slides across the windows, a stack of papers in one hand and a childhood memory in the other, your father counting coins like prayers, your mother whispering that money was either salvation or sin. The room smells of coffee and the quiet that comes after a long day of pretending the numbers don't matter. Inside you, two voices argue, one tight with fear, repeating old stories, money corrupts, wealth separates you from God, another quieter, hungry for possibility. Then, like a gentle knock against the chest, a message arrives, stewardship, not ownership. Think of your resources as entrusted to you, a calm presence says, not condemning but instructive. What you manage, you multiply. What you hoard, you hollow out. The words are simple, but they land like stepping stones in a river you thought impossible to cross. You test them aloud, almost as if name can make them true, stewardship, not ownership. The phrase changes how you look at your expenses, at the impulse to prove worth through things, at the way fear disguises itself as caution. Temptation still shows its face, flashy offers, the siren song of quick fixes, the old shame that whispers you're not enough unless you have more. You feel the tug to run, back to simplicity or into accumulation. The voice returns, this time with a counsel you recognize from scripture and from small, holy moments. Generosity is proof of trust. It is not a command to give away your safety, but a principle that reveals the heart. Give from your margins, and you will be invited to expand them, it says. You imagine paying a bill and tacking a small gift onto it, imagining someone else's burden eased. You begin to translate these truths into habits, boundaries around spending, a weekly check-in with an accountability partner, a small automated gift each month, a ledger that is honest rather than defensive. Each practice feels like muscle building for faith. There is tension, Fear flares when you set limits or open your wallet, but slowly, purpose anchors your decisions. Money becomes a tool, not a test. You rise from the table with a plan written in pencil and prayer in your pocket, knowing the work of integration has begun. If this counsel has moved you, give it a like and subscribe with the bell, so these gentle messages can continue guiding your steps as you prepare to cross into a season where choices turn into visible fruit. The kitchen light is soft, the coffee is cooling, and you find yourself with a spreadsheet open and a prayer in your lap. The old stories surface first, voices that learn to speak for you. Money corrupts, wealth makes you proud, abundance will steal your heart. Fear arrives like a guest who never leaves. You can't serve both, it says, firm as an old law. You close your eyes and answer, not with cleverness, but with a question the whisper taught you. What if provision is not the rival of devotion but its instrument? A different voice, calmer and steadier, replies. Stewardship over ownership, it says, and you taste the word stewardship like a promise. It isn't permission to hoard, it is training for freedom. You begin translating that into small, stubborn practices, an envelope of giving set aside before paying bills, a boundary written on a sticky note, no work calls after dinner 2 nights a week, a plan to meet with a mentor who has walked this way before. You rehearse the prayer not of fear but of assignment. Lord, show me how to use this to bless. The scene shifts to a park bench where a friend listens and asks the practical questions you forgot to ask yourself. How will you track progress? Who will hold you accountable? What will you do when old shame returns? Together you draft a promise, monthly check-ins, a clear budget that honors both provision and generosity, a purpose statement pinned on the fridge, prosper to serve, not to boast. The words steady you like a rope. Temptation still knocks, an ad for luxury scrolls across your phone and the pulse quickens. But now the whisper returns with a plan, boundaries that protect attention, automated savings that build capacity, giving that expands the heart before the bank balance. You practice saying no to drift and yes to intention. The fear hasn't vanished, but it has a new shape, a warning light, not a dictator. You stand at the edge of action, tools in hand and a new map forming across the table, habits, accountability, purpose. If you want to follow this path and receive the practical roadmap that turns these whispers into daily routines, stay with me. If this stirs something in you, press like to hold the feeling, subscribe and ring the bell so these messages keep finding you. In the next moment, a choice will be required, and it will shape everything that follows. Morning light slants across your kitchen table, cutting the ledger into bright and shaded halves. A mug steams, a Bible rests at the edge of the paper, and somewhere between the numbers and the prayer you hear that same gentle whisper, I will provide. Not as a luxury, it says, but as a tool, for tending, for giving, for the work you were made to do. Your chest tightens. Old stories crowd in, wealth will change you, money will steal your heart. Yet today the whisper is paired with counsel that feels less like accusation and more like an invitation, stewardship over ownership, generosity as proof of faith. You close the spreadsheet, palms flat on the table, and answer aloud, half to God, half to yourself. Show me what to keep. Show me what to let go. A memory surfaces, a friend who used wealth to open a school, a neighbor who used inheritance to feed an entire street. Their faces shift the fear, what if prosperity is not the threat but the means? Practical steps begin to form, not as rigid rules but as faithful habits. You write a small, honest budget that reflects your values, a margin for rest, a fund for emergencies, a line dedicated to giving. You set a boundary on impulse, an accountability call each month to a trusted friend who will ask the hard questions and celebrate the wins. You schedule a meeting with someone who understands both scripture and spreadsheets, someone who will teach you to multiply resources without multiplying anxieties. In one vivid moment you fold an envelope marked blessings and drop the first gift inside, a quiet, trembling offering that tastes like freedom. The whisper returns, warmer. Prosperity is your capacity to bless. You breathe differently. Fear does not vanish, but it settles into purpose. The landscape of your life shifts from scarcity to stewardship, the stakes remain sacred. If this scene resonated, if that whisper stirred something inside you, linger here for a heartbeat, like this gentle turning, promise yourself to keep listening. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss what comes next. A clear, faith-rooted roadmap that turns these habits into a life where thriving honors God and multiplies blessing. In the next moment you will step out with a plan, the first lines of a map unfolding under your fingertips. The morning light finds you at the kitchen table again, bills spread like small mountains and a mug gone lukewarm. Outside, the city hums, ordinary life pressing in, but inside there's a quieter hum, the memory of a whisper that has not left you. You remember that night on the porch, the words that felt like a lantern, I will provide, and I will give you purpose with it. It wasn't a command to chase money, it was an invitation to steward what is entrusted to you. You set down the pen and speak aloud, more to steady yourself than to anyone else. What if I change? What if wealth changes me? The answer comes not as thunder but as counsel, boundaries first. Stewardship before ownership. Let generosity test your heart. Those phrases are not abstract now, they become instructions you can act on. You make a list, a giving plan that happens the day money arrives, an emergency fund that protects your peace, a 72-hour rule to check impulse buys, and a monthly accountability call with a friend who will ask the hard questions and celebrate small wins. A scene forms in your mind of another conversation, this time practical. If you increase your capacity, a calm voice says, invest in skills that serve others. You see yourself taking a course, saying no to a second job that steals your Sabbath, and saying yes to mentoring a young person who needs seed money to start a business. Fear still rises, old stories whisper that abundance breeds pride, but you test those whispers by acting in service. When you automate generosity, the test is answered. When you set boundaries, your relationships breathe. There are concrete moments of tenderness, calling your partner and saying, I want us to plan how money serves our calling, crying together not from scarcity but from relief. There are practical habits that build rhythm, weekly budget nights, quarterly vision reviews, and a trusted advisor who keeps you honest. The spiritual lessons and the spreadsheets begin to line up. You're not fixed, some nights doubt returns, but there is a new motion to your steps, a steadying that feels like faith and reason walking hand in hand. Ahead lies a choice, to integrate fully, letting prosperity become a tool for blessing. If this path resonates, give this a like to hold the feeling, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next part, where we lay out the roadmap that turns these habits into a life that honors God and multiplies your capacity to bless. Night settles over the small kitchen where you sit with a notepad and a cup gone cold, the numbers and names blurred by the tremor in your hand. Outside, a streetlight hums steady like a promise. You speak aloud as if to steady the voice inside, if I pursue this, will I lose what matters? The whisper comes not as thunder but as a steady, sure presence, gentle counsel that has visited you since the crossroads, steward what I give you. Let abundance be a means, not an idol. The words land like a map, and suddenly the ledger feels less like a judge and more like a tool. A week later, in sunlight on the porch, you practice new habits. You write a margin for generosity beside the budget, not as an afterthought but as the first line. You set boundaries, workdays that end, regular Sabbath rhythms, an accountability call with a friend who holds both your dreams and your conscience. You start naming investments not only by return but by impact. Who will be served, what will be built, what will be preserved. In the grocery line you surprise yourself by slipping a gift card into the hands of a tired stranger and feel the old fear unspool into something like joy. This is how it feels, you whisper, hearing again the older voice, blessing multiplies when it moves. Temptations still knock. Pride will arrive dressed as freedom, comfort, as complacency. But now you have practices, small, faithful rituals that translate truth into muscle memory. You meet with a mentor in a quiet office, sunlight through blinds, and say what you once would have hidden, I want to prosper without losing God. The mentor smiles, not with easy answers but with steady eyes, then make prosperity transparent. Let others help steward it with you. You sign paperwork for a community fund and your chest tightens and the tightness softens because the act is prayer in motion. If this resonates with you, imagine what a single intentional habit, one margin set aside, one accountability call, could do over a year. If you want practical steps and real stories to help you build that bridge between faith and flourishing, like this message and subscribe. ring the bell so these steady whispers can reach you again. In the next scene, we anchor these habits into a daily rhythm that will test and refine your courage, preparing you to walk forward, faithful and prosperous. You stand at the edge of the same crossroads where this journey began, but the air is different now, warmer, touched by a dawn that feels earned. The quiet road stretches ahead, lined with the hush of cedars and the soft glow of porch lights where your family waits. In your pocket, the memory of old fears rustles like a folded note. Beside it, the imprint of new practices, ledgers, boundaries, a calendar of giving, reminds you that faith and finances no longer have to be strangers. A voice you recognize, gentle and steady, speaks as if from the space between your heartbeats, "Steward what I entrust to you. Let generosity be your first allocation, and purpose be your compass." You answer aloud, still raw with questions. Will I become someone else? Will I lose what matters? The reply comes without condemnation, only clarity: you will become more of who I made you to be. Prosperity is only dangerous when it becomes a rival to love. Make it a tool to serve, and it will honor both you and me. Cinematic fragments fold into one another, signing papers that feel like covenant rather than conquest, setting aside margins for giving, sitting at a simple wooden table with an accountability partner who speaks truth with tenderness. You teach your children to count not just coins but responsibilities. You feel the strange, steady blessing that arrives when you choose to give first. Fear does not vanish. It returns in smaller, human shapes: doubt, the old stories of scarcity. But each time it appears, you meet it with practiced rituals, prayer, the counsel of trusted friends, and habits that translate hope into daily action. At the center of this transformation is a promise, practical, spiritual, and reachable. If you want a clear roadmap, step-by-step habits, questions to ask before every financial decision, and a framework to align your resources with your calling, I will walk it with you. If this stirred something in you, press like as a quiet yes to courage. Subscribe and tap the bell so these messages arrive when you need them most. The crossroads remain, but now you choose the path that honors God, expands your capacity to bless, and turns fear into faithful courage. What step will you take first?